Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Cezia.fit here. So in today's video, I wanted to give you guys a better understanding of essentially what macronutrients are, how to calculate your macronutrients and calories, and essentially how to track your macros. So I know for a lot of people who are just beginning their fitness journey, it can be quite confusing when you hear all these terms being thrown around. It's confusing to know exactly how much you should be eating. So I just wanted to create a video that you guys can take away some key points from that can really help you on your journey. So number one, let's start off with what the heck are macronutrients. Essentially, they're just your carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. They're the nutrients that your body needs a lot of, hence macro. Now, before we get into how you can track your macros, how to create a macro split for yourself, let's talk about whether you should be tracking macros and why you should track macros. Whether or not you should track your macros really depends on your goals. If you're new to fitness and working out, it can be useful to have a better understanding of essentially how much you're eating and how much you should be eating. Knowing how many calories you should be eating will be very helpful in terms of making sure that you're actually fueling yourself enough, especially if you have specific goals. However, you don't have to be like incredibly precise with it, so you don't have to track everything to the gram and make sure that you're hitting your calories to the exact amount, because that's not realistic. As long as you have a rough guide on how much you should be fueling your body, that's pretty much enough for a beginner and someone who's just looking to have their food on point and on track towards their goals. On the other hand, if you have specific physique goals, performance related competing goals, then it is a lot more important to be more precise with your calories and your macros. So perhaps you're wanting to get super shredded for a competition, or maybe it's for a photo shoot or something planned ahead, then you would want to be more careful with essentially how closely you track your macros, so that you make sure you're really effectively utilizing your calories and that you're on point with your goals. Personally, when I wasn't competing or on prep, I was tracking my macros and I had a very much flexible dieting approach towards how I ate. And I did this because I still had personal goals. So when I went to the gym, I had specific goals that I wanted to reach in a time frame, and I knew that by having my food and nutrition on point as well as my training, this would essentially push me closer and more efficiently to my goals. In saying this though, it didn't mean that I was tracking to the T so that every gram was precise. It was more that I essentially knew the brackets of essentially how much I should be eating and my macronutrient split that worked best for my body, and I was making sure that on average throughout the week I was hitting it. So perhaps on one day I was feeling a lot more hungry. Well, then I would listen to my body and allow myself to eat a bit more on that day. And then perhaps some days I'm just not hungry at all and I just don't feel like eating as much. And on those days, I will then reduce my calorie intake. So as long as on average, when you kind of like zoom out and look at your calories and macronutrients, as long as they're kind of hitting where you want to be at, that's completely fine. I think this is something that a lot of people do need to be reminded about, because when you start having numbers involved, it is very easy to become obsessed with them, and that's something we want to avoid. However, to give you another perspective, when I was prepping for my show, so before I started prepping, I was reverse dieting, I had to be really accurate with my calories and my macros, because by being a lot more accurate, it helped me with my reverse diet, and it meant that any changes that I saw and any fluctuations that I saw in my body and my training could be easily correlated and controlled with what I was eating, how much I was eating. That was a stage where I did have to be very precise, but on an everyday lifestyle basis, you really don't have to track it to the gram. Now, what I think is so great about this flexible dieting approach is that you get to actually enjoy all the foods that you do love, obviously in moderation. So like, just because say 10 cookies fits into your macros, I'm not suggesting that you go and have 10 cookies every day, because logic-wise, that's not going to be amazing for your health. But it does mean that you get to enjoy a variety of different foods and still have them aligned to your goals. So with me, I really do enjoy cooking. I love experimenting in the kitchen. When I go to the supermarket, I end up like walking around for 2 hours, because there's just so much, like, there's so many cool things to try and so many sauces and herbs and like different like oriental dishes that I just want to make, and by following a flexible dieting approach, I'm able to do so but still work towards my physique goals and my training goals. And so that's what kind of makes me really enjoy flexible dieting, because it fits in with my lifestyle. However, something to consider before you start calorie and macro tracking is to consider your current relationship, if you want to call it that, with your food, and also just evaluating yourself as a person. Because if you tend to be a very obsessive person and you get very into the nitty-gritty of things, perhaps macro tracking and calorie tracking won't be for you, especially if you are, say, currently going through any kind of disordered pattern of eating. Perhaps tracking your calories and macros won't do much good for you, because you could become obsessed with the numbers. So that is something that you want to consider and take into account. So for example, if me telling you that when you start tracking your macros that you can't actually, you know, always track them 100% accurately, and that, you know, some days you may go over by 100 calories, 200 calories, some days you might be under by 200 calories, maybe one day your proteins are going to be 20 grams over. If that makes you feel anxious or just uncomfortable, I would really think things through before you actually start trying to track your macros, because realistically that's going to happen, and for it to be sustainable and for you to really reap the benefits of flexible dieting, you have to kind of be comfortable with the fact that you can't track everything to the exact gram. Like, that would be incredibly hard. And so with all that into account, let's now move on to how you can calculate your calorie intake and your macronutrient split. So firstly, you want to calculate your total daily energy expenditure. That is a mouthful, so we're going to call it TDEE for short. And it's essentially an estimate of how many calories you burn each day, taking into account your exercise. It will combine your basal metabolic rate, which is the total amount of calories that your body will need to survive, and multiply that by an energy multiplier. There are a lot of calculators online that can help you calculate this. Again, I really do want to emphasize that these are just calculators, and because we are all so unique and our bodies are so different, this is a very kind of approximate estimate, and you can't just take that as the kind of be all end all calorie that you're supposed to have. Now, another way that you can try estimate how many calories you're having on a daily basis is essentially just to track for a week. So take a week out and just track your foods that you're having, and don't make any conscious kind of food changes just because you're suddenly tracking now. Just eat as you normally have been, and then over a week you can kind of see what the average calories you're intaking are. And from there you can make adjustments aligned with your goals. So for example, if your goal is to gain some more muscle and to go through a building phase, then you can increase your calories from the calories you've either calculated online or from the calories that you've averaged out throughout a week of eating. If your goal is weight loss, well then you would simply reduce your calories. So let's say you reduce them by 100 of what you've calculated, and then go from there. And once you've calculated the kind of estimate total calories you should be having each day, you can then calculate your macronutrient split. So essentially you're splitting those total calories into proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. A general split that most people usually start off with is essentially having 50% of the calories from carbs, 30% from proteins, and 20% from fats. So this could be where you would start your macronutrient split from. I would say stick with these macronutrients for around 3 to 4 weeks. See how you feel, see how your body responds, continue with the type of training that you have been doing, and just listen to your body, because again, everyone's so different, and some people function a lot better on, you know, higher carbs, and some people need higher fats. So it really kind of just depends on you and your body. Give it a few weeks, see how you feel, and then you can make adjustments from there. So perhaps you find that you're not recovering from the gym, you're sore, and you just don't have much energy. That could be a sign that you need to increase your calories, or perhaps increase your proteins and carbohydrates, or perhaps your fats aren't high high enough. And signs that you perhaps need to alter your fats and increase them would be hormonal changes, mood swings, and for females, your menstrual cycles. So if they become irregular or if you start losing them, that's a key sign that there's probably something to do with your fats that need changing, or even your general calories, so increasing them and bumping those up. So yeah, I hope that clarified a few things for you guys. I know it does seem quite complex when you're just starting out, but honestly, I think the biggest tip I have here is just find out how much you're eating on average through a week, and then find out a macronutrient split that works for you. And that's really just through trial and error. No calculator online will know your body as well as you do. So just find out a split, use the 50-30-20 split, see how you feel, see how your training goes. Are you moving towards your goals? And there's really no right or wrong. I think that's kind of the main thing that really confused me. I just believe that, you know, there must be a right nutrient split or a right amount of calories, and like, you know, does it matter if it's say like 50% carbs and 20 protein, 30 fats, or 25 protein, 25 fats? The honest answer is there really is no right or wrong. It really just depends on your body and what works for you. So I hope this was helpful, and if you did like this video, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel, because it really does support my channel and I really do appreciate it. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below, or flick me a DM over on Instagram, that's at cz.fit. And other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!